Hello and welcome to Beyond the Slipstream. I'm Justin and I'm here with my brother Matt, and on today's show we're going climbing. We're going to scale the heights of Taipei 101 with the most famous mountain climber of all time, Alex Honnold. He recently attempted to climb a skyscraper in Taiwan live on Netflix, and the broadcast was one of the most unique TV events we've gotten in years, if not ever. It got us thinking about other mountaineering and climbing related content. Firstly, Free Solo, the documentary that put Honnold in the mainstream consciousness when it won the Best Documentary Oscar a few years ago. But we'll also get into some other really good climbing stuff as well. So get rid of that climbing harness and lose the safety lines, because we're about to free solo this episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Slipstream. This has been the craziest week for me, all right, of going from a topic where I was like, man, I have like nothing on this. I hadn't like you threw this out as a suggestion kind of late. Like we were going to try to pull it together last week. And it was just, we already had something going on. And so we pushed it to this week, and I hadn't watched the Taipei 101 special yet. And, so I was like, what, man, like, where is this going to go? Bro, let me tell you, I went down the biggest mountain climbing rabbit hole of all time. I have
spent a lot of time down there, dude.
I have digested, I would say somewhere in the area of like 12 to 20 hours of content about climbing in general, mountain climbing, Everest, Meru, K2, you name it. Like this thing went in so many different directions for me. It was unbelievable. And it started with what we'll start with, which is Skyscraper. All right. The Skyscraper Live. I think is what they call it. Live. And I was completely unaware that this was even a thing until Andy texted us. I think it was Andy that texted us.
Yeah.
And that's our other brother. And, I didn't have time when he texted it to be able to go and check it out. But I did end up watching it the next day with my wife. And obviously, I'm familiar with Alex Honnold. He's, Free Solo is an amazing movie, and he's been involved in a couple other movies that I've watched, The Alpinist, and but anyway, one of his like long-term desires as a climber has been to climb a skyscraper. And the one that he chose is maybe the coolest building I've ever seen, for one. For a very tall building, in Asia, which there's plenty of them, and very cool ones. The one he decides to climb is very, very cool. Like the shape of this building is wild because it kind of like starts at an angle up to like this first level, and then there's 8 boxes like stacked on top of each other that kind of go from a small angle to a wide angle the whole way up. And it is 1,700 feet, and homeboy just climbs up it like he's a spider, dude. Like it's unbelievable.
Yeah. So this is just an incredible idea for a show. I mean, for folks who don't know, the discipline that this man has mastered, is the greatest master of, is free soloing, which is climbing without safety gear of any kind.
Correct.
So,
and by himself with no help.
Yeah, no safety. You in a building, you in a wall, you in a mountain. Like you don't get any safety gear. And the year that Free Solo came out, that it won the Academy Award, I was following movies pretty intensely like I do now. And if anybody would ask me what the scariest movie I saw all year was, it was not a horror movie. Trust me, it was Free Solo. That was the most like just crazily scary movie to watch, because this dude has gone up the face of El Capitan. He is like thousands of feet up with no safety equipment at all. Like the scariest situation you could possibly ever imagine finding yourself in. And this dude just willingly goes out there and, by being such a master and under being so fit and understanding how these things work and the physics of the thing, he just does these
He also he
death-defying.
does a remarkable amount of reconnaissance, and he knows he plans it very thoroughly, and so he does know, he doesn't go into these things without a plan. It's not like he just now. That's not to say, because I digested entirely too much content about this guy this week. There are times when he does free solos where he just shows up and climbs.
Mhm.
All right, that has its own name, and I forget what it is, but it is, he is very smart. Like, he's super smart, and so he kind of gets this plan together and does his reconnaissance, and as far as this is concerned, he starts going up and to me, I thought the first part, like the first section, to me looked to be the hardest because of the angle of it, and he had those little finials on the side of the building that he had to deal with, and then I felt that it got easier for him after the first section.
All right, let's go back though. Like before we get into it, I have more stuff I want
Sure.
to say about like the event, etc. So let's not bury the lead. This dude is doing this on live TV.
10
And
second delay.
it was a 10-second delay?
Yes, 10-second delay in case something happened.
Wow. Okay, so if he falls from the very top,
They're gonna cut it.
it might be 10 seconds. Wow. Um, okay. Uh, Nonetheless, absolutely insane. Like one would think, I mean, if he falls, it's 10-second delay and they just cut the broadcast.
I'm assuming,
Like,
yeah.
so and like you don't get to see any reactions of it. Like it's just over.
I would assume just goes to black.
That would be almost more ominous if that happened. Oh my God, than if they showed it. But like
Yes.
still, there's thousands of people on the streets below, like watching this thing. Like, I mean, it's just that whole part of it just lends to the just insanity of this. This is insanity. Like the level of like spectacle of this is
Yes. So
mind blowing.
there's
This
people on
comes
the
from a
ground.
tradition of like Harry Houdini,
Yeah.
this kind of
There's
stuff, these kind of stunts, and it goes through who's the guy that would all the
David
magician
Blaine.
David Blaine and that kind of stuff. And it's like, here's another one, but this guy's like an athlete. You know what I mean? This
Yeah,
is not
this is an illusion.
not
This
a
is
yeah,
this is
yeah.
like legit. Um there's people on the street. All right. There's obviously the commentators that are also at ground level.
All right, let's talk about the camera setup.
Yes. Well, so you have a guy that is literally suspended following him the whole way up, as well
Yeah,
as
they've got this rig that's built. It's like way up. It's like on the 100th floor. It's like way up there. That's like a little like reinforced arm sticking off the side of the building. And from that, there is hanging a camera person on a big pulley with like a counterweight,
Mhm.
basically. You notice that there's like a counterweight. And so this person is hanging there, hundreds and hundreds of feet with nothing below them. Of course, they're
They're
strapped in
harnessed
and
in.
and all that kind of stuff, but still, nonetheless, and they got a job to do. This person is like
It's his climbing
10.
partner.
Oh, it is.
Mhm.
I did not know that.
Yes.
I missed that part. So, and they're hanging there like 10 feet away from him as he's going up, basically getting these incredible close-up shots. They've also got camera people positioned all throughout the building as he goes up. He's like going past. There's a couple of stationary cameras. I mean, it is
Well,
Netflix
and
to
there's
within an inch
people
of its
in the
life.
building, like
Right, right. Well,
up
hold on,
at the
hold on,
window right
hold on.
next to
We're
him.
getting there. We're
Yeah.
getting there. I'm talking about the technical parts first,
All
the
right.
cameras, and also the very, very sensitive microphone that he is wearing. So, like, you're hearing him, not only are you hearing him talking throughout this entire
He's
thing and saying
running
he's,
commentary.
and you can hear like all of the sound of his hands and his feet on the building. I mean, it's these microphones are so fine tuned in. Like, I just have to say, the production values of this thing were incredible.
Yeah, the only thing that was frustrating to me was the fact that he kept losing the audio with the commentators.
Yeah. But in a way, that was even kind of cool too, because it like presented just like a little element of frustration for him,
Yes.
But by having him mic'd up the whole time and everything, you really got to see that this dude, like, he he takes it deadly seriously,
Hmm.
but he is able to maintain a level of just kind of looseness
Yeah,
in
I'd say
both.
aloofness is almost really. I
No,
mean,
he's not
it's
aloof. He's not aloof. But he is loose. He is easygoing.
super
He,
confident too.
yeah, it's like he takes whatever that stress is and he just pushes it out. It just it never it can never penetrate, and he's able to like take time and enjoy what he's doing and understand that there's a fun to it.
Hmm.
Like he's interacting with the people inside the building, like you're talking about, like
Yeah, he's
people
waving. He's like talking
inside this
about it.
building is
Yeah,
so strange. Like this guy is on the outside of the building, and like 1 foot away, there's like somebody with a phone. Like,
yeah.
and
Like
yet they are like light years apart from each other, but spatially they're 1 foot away from each other. I mean,
I also loved how at different points, like you were obviously going past like an office, and like they'd have their advertisement in the little window there,
mm-hmm.
knowing that he was going to climb over that spot.
Yeah, you see
Um,
that there's that one camera, like when he's getting closer to the top, there's a down camera angle where you
mhm.
see him coming straight up and you can see the building like way below, and they have painted the name of their business like
Yes.
in like 10-foot tall letters across the roof of their building because it's in this camera shot the entire time.
Um, while we're talking about the technical, you had three hosts of the show. You had Elle Duncan, who is a sports broadcaster. She's been on, I think, ESPN in the past. You had Seth Rollins, who is a WWE superstar,
Right.
which he was like the odd man out, but also, I don't know, kind of lended something to it that was a little different. And then you had Emily Harrington, who is a climber. So you had somebody that, kind of could talk of the technical side of it. And then Mark Rober, YouTuber Mark Rober, with the kind of giving the science side of things.
Yeah, and they had like such a good job of like for the one thing they had that like profile of the building on the left-hand side of the
Yes.
screen with like a little red dot like marking his progress. Yeah, in a way, like a lot of these graphics, it's like the same kind of stuff we talk about in bike races
Yes.
when we're talking cycling. It's like stuff that keeps you like updated on the progress, and then you would get to each like little feature, like each little obstacle that he would have to do on the building, and they would pop off with like a little featurette about how it's designed and
Right.
what he's got to do, and very very like well produced, and so in that way they just kept you very dialed into specifically what he was going to have to do, and then boom, all the cameras are there and you just get to see him execute it. It was just absolutely wild. The music was even good. They had the crowds down below mic'd up, so you were constantly getting these oohs and
Yeah, yeah,
ahs from these
yeah.
crowds. So I mean, it was truly just a production, a finely crafted production done live. You know what I mean?
Now, so in my opinion, the first section to me was the part that gave me the most pause. Like it wasn't when he got really high, I felt like once he got past the first section, which is like, a trapezoid up, and then he's got these little things that are on the outside of the building that he's got to navigate over to keep going up. But like to me, like that seemed like the much harder, more dangerous side, because I think he goes up to like 300 or 400 feet in that first section. And then you have kind of the same thing 8 times on the, and then, after you get past that first part. And it seemed to me, and, call me crazy, just from a physics standpoint, each time he got to the base of one of those boxes, it's almost like the challenge of it reset itself, or at least the danger of it reset itself, because at least until he gets to like the corners at the top of the box, if he falls, he's falling, however the distance is just to that next level that he just completed. Like he's not going to fall off the building at that point. The physics would have drawn him in towards the building. So the only time he's really at risk of a major fall is when he's climbing over the things on the corner, the dragons, I think they called them,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where he kind of has to go out over the ledge to get up to the base of the next section.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, I didn't really white knuckle through any of that part of it. It wasn't until he got to the top where I was like, whoa, like
Well,
there was a couple of things up there. So go ahead. No, tell
a
me.
few things on like the lower portion of the climb. I thought it was great. You know, you were talking about like how there's just people inside this building looking at him. There was one part where he went to like give a kid a high five, and like he's like literally out there like trying to get this kid's attention, and the kid's on his phone. And
And
he's like, kids
he
these
made a
days
comment
on their
about it.
phone. Yeah, yeah, kids these days on their phones.
Yeah.
So funny. Also, like at different points, his wife was inside the building, and like they're looking at each other like through the glass, like
That
she's in
has to
there,
be
hey, and
surreal.
just like bizarre. Now they also did little cutaways where they would do like these little like documentary featurettes, and there's
Hmm.
one where they showed him like they talk about him like being a dad, and like if part of that is so troubling to me, just like that he's still willing to like make an orphan of his kid, like.
So, and this is the interesting part about all of the other research that I did is that while there is an inherent danger to it, yes, this guy is so measured in his preparation that I don't know, man. I don't look at it as I don't see that. I think to him he's not, like it's not as risky as it would be as much as we think it is.
Mhm.
And because they had scrubbed it. It was originally supposed to be the day before, and they had scrubbed it for 24 hours because of weather. And
Right.
so I'm sure that there's boxes that he had to check before he felt comfortable to do it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure that and if you remember in Free Solo, he on the first attempt he stopped and came down. He like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
there was so I, you know I don't think that he is. I think that he has a control over his fear in a way that we can't understand, and
Absolutely.
it's
Absolutely. And
not.
he's got like a personal calm, like a mental and physical and emotional calm
Yes.
that is just astounding. And he's an interesting character too, just because he's kind of like really goofy. Like he's kind of like he's
Yes.
got big smiling teeth, and he's just like, he's got a funny way about him. Um,
Well, and
that
I watched a couple. So I watched one of the things that I digested over the week was a podcast. He went on Daniel Tosh's podcast, and
Mhm.
if you've ever watched Daniel Tosh's podcast, it's like the anti podcast. He does these very avant garde interviews where instead of asking all the questions that you would think that a podcaster would ask, he asks some really wild questions. And so it was really neat to he's kind of this very nerdy, quirky guy, and it just happens that he climbs and very very well.
Mhm.
And so it's neat it was neat to have that unfold for me throughout the week because he is an extremely interesting person, and he's very well spoken as
Oh,
well.
for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. I wanted to mention there was a great shot. I think you saw it in a lot of the like promotional stuff leading up to the event. But I just wanted to call it out where he is like perched atop some rocky outcropping that's like out on the edge of Taipei, and he's looking
like
he's
at the building.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's looking off and you can see the building in the background with like, the city behind it. That is an amazing shot.
Well,
So many great shots
that's
in this
one of the
thing.
things that really blew me away. So the higher he got, the cooler the visuals got, in my opinion.
Oh
Like
yeah.
there were some views from the upper levels of the building that were just unbelievable. And like
Stunning.
when when he finally got to the top, and like the top was the part where I was like,
The
ugh,
overhangs, the overhangs. That section was so great where it was
dude.
like just these like thick like rings and there was like five of them and they got progressively wider as they went up and he gets halfway up and he hangs his leg over
Oh, and
one
he's
and then he just like both hands off of the thing and he goes into the back, gets some more of his stuff for his hands, and he's just like just one leg just holding him up
that
right
was
there. You're
I
just
mean
like,
that was
oh
he
my
knew he was going
God.
to do that. Like there's
Such a
no doubt he
showboat.
knew he was doing that. Like
Just
that was definitely planned.
absolutely incredible. And of course they
And he's
added
a
it. You get
showman.
that.
Like he's good at it. Like he's good at showing
Yeah,
off.
absolutely. Well, they were talking at one point about how he was so good with like he understands like blocking and stuff like that. And he like paused or something and said something to the camera guy, like, should I be over here? Like, is this what you need for the shot? It's like, dude,
So
it's
don't
just
worry
like
about
it's
us,
just
man. Just worry
another day
about
at work.
yourself. Yeah.
I mean, it's just another day at work for this guy. It's totally insane.
So the palm sweatiest part for me, all right, was when he gets to the actual tippy top. So once he gets over those rings, he has to climb a ladder. Like there's no way for him to climb the spire. So they had put like a really janky like swivel ladder up there that was
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. It was like basically just like a rope ladder that was
Yeah.
only like tethered off at like 2 or 3 points, and like up he goes. He's that was probably the easiest part of his whole day.
I don't know, man. That like I said, that part to me was the most harrowing. But when he gets to the top,
Well, and also his wife is now up at the top of the
yes,
building,
she's
like
like
being
right there.
harnessed in. She's harnessed in and being like interviewed by the
No,
WWE guy.
yeah, well, and Rober was with her. Rober was
Right.
up there. Um, but when he gets to the top, the one line that just got me, just I was like, oh, and my palms started sweating. He gets to the very tippy top, and he goes, "Ooh, it's windy." It's just
Yeah,
like,
really? You think?
oh my god! I'm like, dude, a strong gust of wind is gonna blow you off the top of this building,
I
bro.
know, I know. I was thinking that the whole time, and like he just like gets right on up there, and he just stands
Oh,
there, and
he's
he's smiling.
standing
He took a
there. He's
selfie. I mean, it's
waving.
just
Yeah, he got his
totally.
camera out, his phone out, and
Mm.
he's like doing a
I
selfie.
love the fact that he just had his phone in his pocket the whole time.
Oh,
Like,
dude, that's
it's fucking
crazy.
crazy. It is so crazy. Like it's just one of the most nerve-wracking things you can watch. Even though he makes it, like it's
Yeah, yeah,
still
yeah. When I watched it, I knew that he made it, but I'm telling you, the only part that I really got palm sweaty was when he was at the very, very top. But you know, that leads me, into all of these other ones where like I start watching all this other stuff, and it's just like, holy shit, man! Like, there are definitely moments in Free Solo and in the Alpinist where I was like way more where I had much more concern for his safety, even though again, I knew as far as Free Solo was concerned that he, of course, I've already watched this movie. I know that he makes it. You know what I mean? But there's definitely more drama in that. And I mean, it's a movie. It's edited to be more dramatic, but there is definitely a higher sense of danger in some of the other things that he's done,
it's
than
interesting.
this. Um, so I
There was
mean,
one moment where he had to navigate like an inside corner. I'm not sure like what happened there. If it was when he got to the top, like when he got to the top of the first part on the bottom, and then he needed to start doing the dragons, and he had to go inside like this, and that part was very
dude, when he
difficult
was
for
going
me.
over when he was going over the dragons, and like he was like, it almost in I. I also got the sense that like he didn't have to go over those dragons that way, that it was planned that he did that. Like I feel like if he was just trying to climb up to the top, like he would not have done that. He would have gone over, like he wouldn't have gone out on those things. Like I feel like that was added for dramatic effect.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Yeah.
Oh, I tell you what, man, I think the climb time, it was 1:31:37. Guy just
1,700 feet, dude.
just an
That's
hour and a half out of
sick.
his day. He's just going to go ahead and climb to the top of a skyscraper. It's completely insane. It's one of the coolest things to ever watch. I'll be honest. I'm so here for like content like this. I mean, not. I guess the fact that he risked his life is what makes it so compelling.
Yeah.
But like, my God, like just something else. I mean, it's that danger really lends to the drama. Thus, all of these other films we're going to talk about. Um, so you want to take a break and then we'll
Yeah,
come back and do.
let's take a break and then let's get into I've been trying to figure out in my head how I want to like approach this because I mean I could literally probably talk for 3 hours on this topic now, but I'm thinking I'm thinking that we should talk about the climbing movie, the adventure movie genre because it is utterly fascinating. The fact that there are so many people that put their lives on the line, literally put their lives on the line to get some of the most intense video footage that you'll ever see. And then the story of how we've gotten to this point is also extremely interesting because that was the part that I didn't understand because this goes back to the first attempts to climb Mount Everest. I mean, like this is a genre that dates back into the earliest points of cinema in America. So, on that note, we'll be right back.
Don't miss the Team Bus, our weekly podcast about pro cycling, and oh, did I mention pro cycling? We're kind of obsessed. Dropping into your usual podcast feeds every Wednesday.
We're back, and this is going to be the first of a 3-part conversation that we've decided to have on mountaineering movies. We are going to continue talking about Alex Honnold because Free Solo was definitely my introduction into this genre of film. So we're going to talk a little bit about Free Solo, and then we're going to talk about we're going to expand that conversation eventually into talking about the history of climbing movies and mountaineering movies and all of the different places that these go. So 2017 brought us Free Solo. This was most of the mainstream world's first introduction into Alex Honnold, and he'd done some other stuff, and he has worked with National Geographic for years, but this was the brainchild of him and Jimmy Chin, who is a director and photographer and filmographer,
Legend.
and just he's also a climber, and so they decided to make this movie of his world record breaking or first world record attempt at free soloing. He was the first person to ever free solo El Capitan, which is a mountain in Yosemite National Park. El Capitan was named by the Mariposa Battalion when they explored the valley in 1851, and El Capitan is taken to be a loose translation for the local Native American name for the cliff Tutocanonula, which means rock chief. And so the Spanish named it El Capitan, and it is definitely one of the most iconic things in Yosemite and one of the most iconic climbs for rock climbers. It's a very much a mecca in the United States, for people that want to climb, climb mountains and climb rocks and do all this stuff. And it is one of the absolutely most harrowing movies I've ever watched. Especially, I can remember when I first saw this and how palm sweaty and like disgusting you see some of these views when he's climbing and you're looking down into this basically just rocks and trees, at the bottom of this cliff, and you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe this guy is doing this without any kind of, safety gear.
It's stunning to watch. It boggles the mind. I mean, the level of fitness that the guy has and the amount of just fear conquering that he has done is just mind boggling. We talked about it in the last segment. And there's something about, especially being out in nature, the way he is, the beauty of this, the fact that it's just the simplicity of it. It's a man in a mountain. You know what I mean? Like, there's no equipment getting in your way. There's no nothing. It's just like there's a level of purity to what this guy is doing that is like hard to match.
Yeah, and he lives like a very monastic life, because this is now, everybody should note that this is before this guy had kids. He's essentially living out of a van. He's from California. He's born in 85. He's a college dropout, and, he decided to, go live in a van and climb on rocks and, make a life out of it. And it's very interesting. And he's, he has some, other than El Cap, he has free soloed, the Half Dome at Yosemite, El Sendero Luminoso in Mexico, the Moonlight Buttress in Zion National Park, the Phoenix in Yosemite, which is often cited as the first 5.13, which is the designation that they used for how difficult something is, in free solo in the valley, which is a very wild video. If you can catch his Phoenix video, he's climbing up a wet rock, which you spend any amount of time, with these guys, they like it when it's dry. Wet is their enemy, 100%. Right. He did Astroman and Rostrum in Yosemite in the same day, and then he's done some other notable big wall climbs: the Fitzroy Traverse in Patagonia, the Triple Solo in Yosemite, where he did El Cap, Half Dome, and Mount Watkins in under 24 hours, and El Nino in Yosemite, which was a free ascent that he did with Brad Gabre. So, I mean, this guy is. He is the bee's knees when it comes to climbing. But at the time, nobody had ever climbed El Capitan without ropes. And
right. It's exactly what I was about to say. He is not above participating in like going after these sort of like prizes of the sport, putting up a first ascent, doing such and such without such and such, like there's all of these sort of like firsts that are available to you in the world of climbing. And I think like a lot of people when climbers of lesser stature, would climb El Capitan, it would be like a 2-day affair or a 3-day affair. Like they would,
they sleep on the wall.
Yeah, they would get up there, they'd sleep up there. Like it was just like this massive undertaking. And here's this guy, it's like, I'm going to climb up that in like 2 hours.
So so obviously, a lot of the movie is kind of showing his prep, and then, they're interspersing the climb in. And one of the things that I think makes this movie so darn good is the fact that Jimmy Chin, the director, is a climber, and so he has an inherent nature about an inherent understanding of the nature of climbing and how it works. Mm-hmm. And so he's able to build the tension, but he also is a wonderful cinematographer and frames this stuff in such a way that is just stunning and epic in the best way possible. And as far as nature photography goes, it is some of the best that you will ever see. He spotlights this mountain in a way that is just the mountain becomes a character in the movie for sure. Yeah. And it's the way that he interweaves the story of the prep with the attempt. It's it's just a beautiful symphony of film. It really, really is.
Yeah, and Alex Honnold's ability is just incredible. I mean, I love it when he's on a rock, and he's following a crease in a rock, or like a spot where like there was like two giant pieces like sheared a little bit, and so now there's like a crack that like goes way 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 up, and he'll be like this, he'll have like legs and feet, and he'll just be like working his way up because he's got a really good hold on it, so it's a perfect spot to go up.
Yep.
And it's just like it's just incredible. It's just incredible, like the the understanding of how the physics of the thing
The push and
works,
pull of it all.
right? Yeah, it's like his body is just such a perfectly tuned machine. Every single finger of his, like, he can use, and he knows exactly how to push him in which direction, and it's just
How much force to apply, when
right.
to move his feet, and it's just wild. So in the movie he starts to make an attempt that he abandons at one point, and what's really interesting is they do a great job of like building the tension of he kind of like he got, in one of those, we've talked for the last, whatever, 45 minutes about the fact that the guy is like, he doesn't seem to get flustered at all, and in this attempt that he abandoned, he got flustered and he got into his own head a little bit, and he realized like this isn't the day to do this, and decides to come down. And when he does finally decide to go, it's like really on the go. It's very like, okay, I guess he's doing it. Like I guess this is happening right now. And it seems like the whole crew is like scrambling to kind of catch up to his point, to where he's at, because he starts to make the ascent, and he's off and running, and they do such a wonderful job of like creating this tension as he's going up. And into these, there's a couple of like spots during the climb that there's one that's called the boulder problem, and they do such a great job. It's so fucking tense during the boulder problem, and like how they portray that, and it's so cool. And at one point he's going so fast, and it's neat because the way that they shoot it is they've got him and his camera guy, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And however they're doing that, and they do a really good job of hiding it. They do a really great job of like, you don't see the camera people except for the one at the bottom. They've got a camera at the bottom, like on a tripod, and a spotter that's like, letting him know where he's at. Like, okay, he's at this part. He's at this part. And at one point, they start laughing because he comes across a group that's sleeping on the mountain, and like there's a dude in like a unicorn onesie, and he just like just flies right past them and up into the next section. That's crazy. And these people are there on the mountain as he's doing this, and you're getting this like back and forth between him on the mountain and his commentary on it, and then the commentary of the people that are watching him make the attempt from down below. And there are times when like they can't even watch, when they're like looking, and they're like looking in the like, they look in the little view thing, and they're looking up, and they look in the little view thing, and then they turn their heads, and they're I can't watch this part. And so they do a wonderful job of like building tension into it. But like, when he does finally make that attempt, and he's doing the actual ascent, he just seems so unfazed by the whole thing. He's just like, it was just there, and I knew I could do it, and off I went. And when I got to this hard part, and it all came together, and he just scurries up this mountain in such such fast pace. And at every point where he gets to a part that's like, where they're like, okay, this is a part that he's had a problem with, and he gets past it, they are reveling in the accomplishment more than he is even reveling in the accomplishment. And it's such a cool way for the story to unfold in front of you. It's wild, man.
Let's use we talked about this on the Skyscraper Live. He's very media savvy. He's a smart guy. He is into, the business of this thing, what is being produced, et cetera, et cetera. He's really invested, in all that kind of stuff. And, as we saw in Skyscraper, he's like helping the camera person out with the, blocking the shot out or whatever. And, he works with these filmmakers so well, et cetera, et cetera. Let's contrast that with Marc-Andre Leclerc, the subject of the film The Alpinist, which is a movie I have watched at least 5 times. That movie just touched me deeply. And these are two very, very different guys.
Yes, they have a lot of the same goals in the sense that, they want to accomplish things that people have not accomplished. However, where Alex is very cognizant of, cataloging the experience, like Marc-Andre Leclerc is a very pure climber that is there for the climb and like
spiritually and emotionally,
yes, and could
pure.
give a shit less about the people that want to record him and so much
or about publicity in any way.
Yeah. It's not about that. And the people that made the movie came to him and they were like, we want to film you doing this stuff.
He was never seeking out any kind of publicity at all. This is a guy who found big wall rock climbing and also very specifically like ice climbing. Mm-hmm. And then also like mixed media climbing and mountaineering. That whole world he understood from early on that it was in his bones.
Yeah, it was in his DNA.
That is what he did. This is how he expresses himself in life. This is how he manages to be a sane person and a human being in the world, is by doing this thing. And he just does it because it's what he does. And he sees a beauty in being the first to do something, to being the first guy to get someplace, but it has nothing to do with putting his name at the top of a list or gaining some kind of publicity or being famous about it. It's about proving something to himself, and himself very specifically alone. Yes. And this is like one of the greatest parts of this film is when he has this sort of reluctantly signed on to like shoot a movie with this crew of guys that I don't know, did they have an IMAX camera or something or
so
there was a very serious professional crew that this was like a giant coup for them to find him, because like we said, he wasn't going after publicity. He earned a reputation because he was this dude that was like hanging around El Cap and just like doing amazing stuff, and then he'd go off at other places in the world and do these things, and he'd post them.
His background is he is from British Columbia. By the way, just real quick, there's a sweet little scene in like the first like 5 minutes of like him and his friends like sitting around smoking weed, hitting those BC buds,
right?
And but this is like he's in the Squamish, British Columbia like climbing culture, and that is where where he's living and where he's climbing. The most. They start the movie with him free soloing the Grand Wall, and to me, the thing that becomes very, very clear in it very early on is how the difference in the preparation, like Alex talks about in Free Solo, like this is something I've been visualizing for 6 years. I've been visualizing doing this for 6 years, and to me, Leclerc is more like a jazz musician or something like that, where it's a free form, free flowing thing where he's like, he knows what he needs to do. He's thought about it. But once he gets it in his head that he's ready to go, like that's it. Like he's just going to go do it. And it doesn't matter if the camera people are there. It doesn't matter. Like if he gets it, if it's that day and it's the day that it's going to be, give a shit less whether or not anybody's there to be there with him, witness it, whatever. And there's definitely a point where he like disappears from the film crew. Like he falls off the face of the earth, and then
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. It's
yeah,
like they were with him. They, their side of the understanding was like, hey man, like whatever you're doing, we're going with you. Like we're doing a documentary about you. So when you go climbing, you let us know and we'll be there with our equipment and we're filming you. And that wasn't the way he had it in his head.
no,
He's like, yeah, you can film me sometimes and stuff, but also like this is my thing. And sometimes I do stuff on my own.
yeah. And he goes and does some climb, and they kind of get pissed off at him because they're not there, and he's like, well, we can do it again. Like you guys can film me do it again.
Yeah, he's got an Instagram and he puts up stuff there for his climbing buddies, stuff that he did. And these guys are talking about like how they're all like back in the US or whatever. And then suddenly it was like I can't remember exactly where it was. It was like was it like um Patagonia or someplace where he put up that where he just like disappeared.
He
Um
showed, yeah, he like showed up somewhere. I don't have it in my notes, but
Yeah,
yes,
I feel like it was like down in Patagonia, or maybe it was like over in Asia someplace. But they put up this crazy first descent on some thing that they showed reactions from like multiple people in the climbing world who are all just like, oh my God, that guy just did that by himself with no crew, with no support. He just got a flight over there and climbed that thing. And like that was his thing. I mean, that was Marc-Andre Leclerc in a nutshell. That's what he lived to do, was to go to be by himself, to be one with nature, and to just go do a thing. And you're not going with me the first time because I don't want you there.
yeah.
This is about me in the mountain, and you're not going to be there. I'm not going to tell you. And then he's like, yeah, like you said, you want to go do it again? Sure, I'll go do it again. That's fine. You can film me. It's not that. It's not that I don't want to be filmed doing it. It's that when I do it for the first time, that one's for me.
Hmm.
And like there's something that is just so beautiful about that particular part of his character. It's so pure, and it just it makes the ultimate uh ending of the movie that much more
So
poignant.
before we get there, so
Right, we gotta do the ice
there's a
wall.
couple of notes that I have in here. So I put in there, the ice climbing is fucking insane, which it really is. Like there's a point where they're like, he is climbing up frozen waterfalls, and that's absolutely insane. And then
Well, it's what I love about that particular thing is that it's a it's a so you have to use ice axes
mhm,
when you're doing ice climbing. You use ice axes, which are these like very specifically built tools that have a very sharp little pointy end to them that can go into like a little crag in a piece of ice and like hold there. You know what I mean? Like they're very specifically built, and they become an extension of his body as he's
yes,
going up. Like he knows how to use them, and so and he there's one in each hand,
and
and on his
he's
feet.
got
Yeah,
spike shoes on too.
yeah, he's got the crampons on his
Yes,
on his feet, so he can plug his feet into to the bottom, and he can plug his ice axes in there. So he's got four very specific points of contact, and that's how the whole thing works. It's like by applying pressure, by having those four contact points, you can apply pressure in the right way so that you stay attached, in a nutshell. But he has to take the ice axes and he's got to find that space. So it's like, it's this very delicate thing where he's like, he's locked in on the bottom. He's got both his feet in a safe spot. Those are good. And he's got this one in a good spot. He goes, and now it's time to find safe spot for my 1 point. So he starts tapping, tink, 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 trying to pull it, tink, testing it, pull, tink, yep, pull, pull. Yeah, that's strong enough. All right, I'm good. Now I can release another point. Like this is in. I release another point. Ding, I move this up. Tap, 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 tap. And it's just this meticulous thing. And sometimes he reaches a place where he needs to be able to feel it with his hands. And so he'll take the ice axe and he'll lay it on his shoulder and it just sits there. And it's like that thing, I'm sure he's got a spare
Mhm.
in his backpack, but like, you know, that's his tool, man. That's like his hand. He just lays it on his shoulder, feels around with his hand. Sometimes he's going to use his hand, pulls himself up, release, get the like it just the meticulousness of all the movements that have to happen and how specific it is and how deliberate it is. Just it's absolutely fascinating.
It really is. Um, there's a point right after that ice climb where they are interviewing Alex for the movie, and he's flabbergasted about whatever it is that he's doing. Like he's just like, I can't even believe that he did this thing. And
Yeah.
you know that like when a guy like Alex is flabbergasted, you know that it's like very serious. Like this is crazy shit. And you know, the thing that was very apparent to me, you know, and like I said, I know what happens in these movies,
Mhm.
you know, ahead of it, but I think it was apparent the first time that like I don't think that this guy was ever headed for any other result than what ended up happening. I feel like this guy was going to climb this way until he, you know, eventually didn't make it.
Right.
Like, you know, he was going to continue to push the envelope and push the envelope and push the envelope, you know, until the envelope, you know, gave essentially. And that was like, you know, the thing that was big. And so
There's another part that should be discussed though, and that is his very, very unique personality.
yes, he's such a
Um,
sweet guy.
yeah, he's so just incredibly sweet. There's a part where he interacts with a kid at a place where he's staying, like down in South America or something, and like the
Hmm.
interaction, he's so
He's playing the
childlike.
guitar. That was when
He's like,
he climbed Tor Edgar.
yeah, Tori Iger, and we should also mention too that he's got a girlfriend. Like they are in
Hmm.
love. You see them climbing, like they are like two peas in a pod. She's a climber as well, and like so many of these adventures
Or
that
with
he's
her,
going on,
yes.
she's going with it, and she's like using safety equipment and stuff like that, and he's like free soloing some of this stuff. Um, but she's there with him almost every step of the way. I think they go to Scotland at one point and they're doing like a bunch of crazy stuff
Hmm.
over in Scotland, and like the IMAX crew is just furious, because they're just like missing out on all this kind of stuff, but at the same time they're just sort of shaking their heads like resigned, like, yep, I guess that's this guy. And
Well, and
for this guy to be who he is,
that was what happened when he went, you know, when he eventually, you know, was climbing and ended up losing his life. Is he went? It's called the something Brothers or something in Alaska. I wish I don't know. I can't believe I didn't write it down. Um, it's like the Two Brothers or something like that was the name of the mountain that he was climbing, and they kind of got word about it, you know, after the fact because they weren't really there for it, and you know that was kind of like it's what's interesting is how the film evolved over because like obviously they had to pivot at some point because like he was so difficult to film, you know, eventually the film became kind of about something else, and it was heartbreaking because like there's this scene in the early on where like his mom's like, if you feel like you need to go climb these mountains, then you know just go climb, go do it,
mhm,
you know. And you know the saddest part about that is, and again, I mean, you know, you can say that, you know, he went with his boots on and things like that, but you know eventually he loses his life in this pursuit, and you know it's the cost, like it's the cost, you know. And that's one of the things that propelled me down the rabbit hole is, you know, because it, you know, more often than not, like, put it to you this way, more often than not, there's a lot of tragedy that circles around this sport. And, you know, we look at people like Alex and like the joy and the accomplishment and, you know, the thing that really makes this scary, in my opinion, is it's the cost, you know what I mean? Because your family, your friends, your loved ones are the ones that are going to pay in the end if something happens.
And they put that camera right up in his girlfriend's face, and you just like watch her sobbing because he's
Yes.
gone. I mean, it's just like that part of it also is like so hard. But at the same time, these, I feel like these people, these kinds of people, and this is in no way meant to sound judgy. I think they have an approach to life that is much more akin to like a Native American 500 years ago, where life was far more perilous, where you could die in any number of ways. Um, and they were just in tune with nature and just saw life and death as part of the same thing. And like,
And they wanted
you
to
know,
experience as much of this thing they loved as they possibly could. And I mean, like I said,
and there's just like a nerve that's like deadened in them because the because they've lived an entire life with the possibility of death being so near, and just having to be comfortable about that. There's when the person does die or whatever, it's like they're more able, they're easier, it's easier for them to recover, because they saw it as an inevitability, and they've already sort of done some of the
mhm.
emotional and spiritual legwork to be able to get past it,
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with you.
because
It's
she's out there climbing, and like after he's, she keeps going.
yeah, well, and like you know, it's sad because he was with a friend. He wasn't by him. You know, in the case of the situation where he died, they're pretty sure that he died in like some sort of avalanche situation.
Yeah, it wasn't like a
Um,
mistake per se.
no, it was just something that happened. But I mean, that's one of these inherent risks when you're
Yep.
doing these cold weather descent, cold weather ascents. Um, and that's where and that's one of the reasons why I've decided to make this a broader conversation is just off of these 2.5 3 hours of film, it made me kind of like I went looking for more, and then once I had like just peeled back the first layer of that onion, I realized like holy shit, man, there's a hell of a lot more to this onion. And it took me from from here, which would be your kind of your gold standard of this type of cinema now in the today of it all. And it sent me all the way back to I learned about the first ascents of Everest, and you know the cost of those things, and it wasn't any different. What's neat is this. 100 years ago, they started making a little over 100 years ago. They started making attempts to climb Everest, and that's kind of the impetus of the mountaineering movie where it starts. What's really interesting is that the cost then is the same as the cost today, and that it is a life or death, problem for these people. They are going to succeed or they're not going to succeed. And one of the things that was very interesting was I learned about Mallory and Irvine, which are and we'll get into. This is a broader topic, but Sir Edmund Hillary is the one that they credit with the first ascent to the peak of Everest in 1953, and in 1924 there was Mallory and Irvine were spotted 800 feet from the pinnacle. And one of the most heartbreaking statements that I came across in it was when they were talking to Mallory, one of Mallory's children, because there's speculation that they did actually make it to the top first.
Mhm.
But he made the statement, he goes, but he didn't come back down again. He said, and that was his own children saying that. It's like whether or not he got to the top is irrelevant because he didn't come back down again.
Yeah.
And like part of being successful in this genre is the fact that you get back to the ground again to talk about it. And that's one of the things that makes the story in the Alpinist so heartbreaking, is it wasn't the climb, so to speak, that necessarily got him. It was the danger inherent in the climb that, eventually got him. And so it's moving in a way it's hard to describe, how it touches you, that mortality of it all. And it is,
I'll say this too, for that movie, that the set pieces are really, really well done. Like when he's off by himself and he is like trying to make that ascent. I don't remember if it was Torrey Eiger or something else. And he had to like camp out on the side of the mountain, like there's a storm coming in. He had no choice and he just had to hunker down. And it's just as cold and lonely and isolated as a person could possibly be, and he like records a little something or other. And it's just like, it's just breathtaking. It's a must see.
Yeah, totally.
For anybody, just an incredible film, a beautiful work of art, and a beautiful person that should be remembered.
Absolutely. I mean, it is a wonderful, wonderful movie. Why don't we put a cap in it there? All right, we'll pick it up next week. Really get into the history of how these movies came to be, and we'll pick it up at that point, and we will bring that all the way through to, we'll talk about fictional cinema. We'll talk about the based on true story cinemas that are out there for it, and we will get into we will broaden this topic a lot next week when we scale the mountain here on Beyond the Slipstream. So
sounds good.
Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Join us next week when we get even more into climbing.
Till then,
Ale, everybody. Thank you for joining us today.
Beyond the Slipstream is a companion to the Team Bus and is produced by Harperama. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please like, subscribe, leave a review, and tell your friends about us. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Ale!